Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another WineShark Wednesday. Tis yours truly, WineShark, here on another fine fall day here in North Texas. Hope everybody is doing well out there in Wineland. It has been another moderately productive week, which is all good. Greetings to you, Miss Donna, as well. How are you doing? So yeah, been doing a lot of fun things as far as show prep and fall season's underway. We've got a couple of private tastings going, which is cool. We're doing some fun things. So John Kerry remembered to join us tonight. Excellent. Well, welcome. Grab yourselves a glass of wine, relax a bit, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun things today. We got money is what we're going to talk about. Miss Shannon Hobbs, welcome to the show once again. Trying a favorite wine of yours tonight. We're going to be talking about money and wine and what goes into it, and then we're going to talk about the Phantom as our grocery store grab of the week. A popular wine I've actually tried several times before, but an excellent opportunity for us in our Spooktober Wine-tacular for grocery store grabs. So that's cool. I've been receiving more news regarding some stuff that we talked about last week regarding smoke and the fires in California, Oregon, and Washington State. Very interesting notes that I was reading about some guys over in Walla Walla, Yakima Valley area, and how they were analyzing and testing for tests about smoke and smoke taint and things like that. Very interesting additions to what we talked about last week about how, number one, they use not just testing chemically and such. This is they basically do what they call microfermentation. They peel off like 15 clusters or so, make a micro batch of wine, ferment it, and then basically taste it along the way. They did it for a bunch of different types of their grapes. And anyway, really interesting stuff as far as how the industry is being impacted by this stuff. So cool, more knowledge for you on that stuff. And yes, Miss Shannon, that is indeed the Bogle Phantom. So one of your favorites, and I am well aware. But a perfect theme, of course, for a spooky October thing. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about that in here in a minute. But we're going to start off by talking about money. Money. Probably next to food, the most common topic that I get asked about is money. Is why does wine cost what it does? And that it's a big, complicated topic. We're going to talk just a little bit about it, though, just kind of on some of the surface levels, and just get you an idea of a little bit about the wine industry and what types of things go into making, this juice that comes out that we enjoy so much in the end. So let's begin talking about just what exactly it takes to get wine into the bottle. Okay. Well, we start, of course, with land, right? We have got to start with real estate because, well, that's where we grow our grapes, and that factor alone can be a big start to why a wine costs the way it does. Now, we're going to be talking two broad classes today. We're going to be talking about smaller wineries, more boutique style wineries, and big, massive wineries. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some numbers with you a little bit later when to talk about, to give some definition about that. So where your land is located is obviously something that's very important. We've talked before about how wines change the way they taste based on where they grow. Hello to Miss Holland, watching from home. Well, welcome back. So the obvious thing being wine country in high demand, whether it's in France and Italy and Germany and Spain and the U.S., Australia, etc. Prime growing land is a big thing in the amount of cost that you're going to pay for an acre of land, let's say. Okay, so we're going to be using some numbers like this where cheap wine land can run anywhere from about $10K an acre to some places as much as $300,000, even up to $1 million per acre in super prime areas that you're growing grapes. Okay, so we're basically, by the way, we're going to be talking about U.S. numbers for all this because the data that I have easy access to is from several American wine analytics sources, etc. So that, you can think about the difference between $10,000 for an acre of land and $300,000 for an acre of land, or $1 million for an acre of land, is a huge difference, right? And that has a lot to do with the price of grape, effectively, that you're going to get out of that. whether you own that and you got your mortgage down on it and how much you end up paying. But we're gonna talk about a theoretical. We're gonna make ourselves a theoretical winery here and do some number crunching in a minute. So what we said then, the question is, okay, well, what do I get for an acre, right? An acre is a unit of land, and that's cool. But what about how much grape does that give me? Well, 1 acre of grapes produces anywhere between 1 and 10 tons of grapes per acre. Okay, average is about 5. Now that yield is very important. The smaller your yield tends to be the more exclusive your wine being made, because it's basically you're cutting away fruit to lower your yield, which is concentrating that energy in that plant into less fruit. So some producers will have as little as 1.5 tons per acre, but 5 is a pretty average number, even for a good quality producer, okay, especially when grapes are at their prime. So that tells us the numbers of, okay, if we've got an acre and we've got 5 tons of grapes, cool. Now what does that mean? Okay, well, each ton of grapes can roughly translate into, can sell anywhere from $100 to $500 for low quality grapes, or up to anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 a ton for high quality grapes. Napa averaged about right around right between $5,500 and $6,000 average in over the last few years, to give you a sense of, that's a obviously prestigious area. So wine grapes grown in that area can run you $5,000, $6,000 per ton. Okay, so that's a pretty big number, right? And that's very different, again, in scale than, say, $100 or $500 per ton. So you can quickly start to see the difference between inexpensive and expensive grapes, which are going to be driving inexpensive and expensive wines as we go further. Okay, so the quality of grape is that very key component. But that's actually really only a portion of what goes up to make our total bottle, right? So let's make an example here. Our hypothetical winery, we're going to call it Slug's Leap, okay? And so Slug's Leap is has 10 acres under vine, okay? They get about an average of 5 tons per acre, so that's 50 tons of grapes per season, okay? A ton of grapes will turn about 700 bottles of wine. For round numbers, let's use case count, because cases then is where we use to describe the size of winery, but that's about 60 cases of wine. So 1 ton, 60 cases. If we get 5 tons over our 10 acres for 50 tons of grapes, that's 3,000 cases of wine. Okay, that's at a 12 count case. So 36,000 bottles of our lovely Slug's Leap juice. And if you can imagine that $5K per, let's just use a lower number of $5,000 per ton. On that ton, we've got $250,000 in grape value alone. Spread that cost amongst 36,000 bottles, and it comes out to about $7 per bottle that we are putting into the glass. Okay, so right there, just strict grape cost, we've got $7 in. Now we've got packaging. We've got the bottle itself, we've got corks, we've got capsules, we've got labeling, okay? Those, including packaging and boxing, usually total up to somewhere around a couple to $5 per bottle, depending on how extravagant you get. Cheaper glass, cheaper corks, cheaper materials, you can lower that scale down, but each one of those little things, starts to stack up. Plus, you've got the winery facilities themselves, cooperage, or in other words, barrel prices, right? So if you're replacing your barrels with any sort of frequency, you're running anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars per barrel for American or French oak. So there's other costs that go into that. So we could easily take our $7 worth of grapes and probably add on another $5 in just operational costs. We're now at $12 for no profit on what we've got here with our Slug's Leap, okay? The Slug's Leap Hammerhead Pinot Noir. Very nice. We got a marketing program going right here, there, John. And Mark says he's still out in California, so no fun for Mark and Betty. But anyway, so our Slug's Leap has now costing us $12 just to make. Well, we're in business, we're going to make some profit here. So usually a winery will sell its wine in the 3-tier system, okay? Because of prohibition, mandated that this, or basically allowed the states to become independent areas of their own alcoholic regulation. What that means is that they set the laws within their states and counties, and which is where we get this patchwork system all across the world. It also allows them to put distributors as the sole middlemen that the wineries, breweries, distillers, cider makers, etc. They all have to sell to a distributor first, who then sells on to a retailer. That adds cost. The three-tier system has been a bane of America for many years now, and we are not big fans here at WineShark. But the system is what it is, and let's talk about, when we're talking about our theoretical winery here, he's going to have to play by the system. We're not doing direct-to-consumer sales in this example. That is, by the way, a topic that has become much more prevalent and much more controversial / advancing here in 2020 due to the pandemic and the changes that we've seen in the industry. So you're going to be able to see a lot more DTC, or direct-to-consumer sales, as wineries become more capable of that. It's a very interesting end of the business. So, but anyway, so when we talk about our average winery, though, they go and they sell to their wholesale. They sell to the distributor, who's their wholesaler, at about 50% of the expected retail cost, what's called FOB, or free overboard. So let's say that we're hoping we're going to sell our Slugs Leap Hammerhead Pinot Noir at the restaurant for $50 a bottle. Okay, we want it to be sold at $50 a bottle. We want to be in that kind of price class. And for the quality of grapes and stuff that we've got, this is all very well. We're all well within the range of the prices that we've been using there. $5,000 a ton per grape is pretty quality stuff. So that's definitely our price point that we want to aim at. So that means we're going to be selling to the distributor at $25. Leaving us a nice, healthy $13 worth of profit on our operations. Now, by the way, those were vastly oversimplified, but to say the least, we're going to make a little, we're going to sell it for $25. Now, that distributor is then going to turn around and sell that wine at wholesale pricing about 33% over FOB. So what they're then doing is basically taking a markup for the ability to get your wines out to the world and distribute it. So, with that being said, they're going to add on another, tack on theirs. Then the retailer, in this case, this is the grocery store, liquor store, or restaurant, is going to mark up an additional anywhere from 50% to, even in restaurants, etc., sometimes as much as 200 to 400% markup. Okay, so a low-end wine, right, that leaves the winery at $3 to $5 at FOB cost is going to get to you in the grocery store, liquor store, for about $10 to $12. Okay, so that's where that low end comes from. But then on our example, our high-end wine here, we're selling at $25. That then gets marked up. It then gets marked up. By the time it's getting served to you, it's at that $50 price point at the liquor store. It's probably going to run more towards the $70 to $100 price point if we were purchasing it in a restaurant. Okay. Now, again, these are simplified numbers. Marketing can play a huge role in the amount and cost of an individual bottle. However, not everybody does a lot of marketing. It turns out that a lot of lower-end wines do a lot more marketing than higher-end wines tend to. This is because, not only from the case count, production count perspective, wineries that are smaller tend to rely much more on their reputation, their industry wags, their relationships within, and their distributors to do the marketing portion for them, so that they're not incurring marketing costs. But big labels, we're talking about the Constellation brands, the Gallows and stuff out there. They spend a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars, and hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on their brand, for that particular bit of marketing, which can then, of course, affect your overall end price because they're going to factor that in. Now, economies of scale is a big and important thing here, right? Every step of the way, you'll notice there's some little bit of somebody. Every time you're buying something from somebody who makes it, they're selling it at their profit too. So you're building that cost into your cost. So if you can, you at that economy of scale where you can buy lots, buy big, save money, little pennies, a lot of pennies turn into big dollars, you can end up saving yourself a lot of money if you can afford that kind of volume and capital. Gallo, for instance, they make their own bottles. They have their entire glass making operations to keep their costs down rather than purchasing bottles from a third party. Okay, so that's a great example where big wineries can save big by being big. So that's one of those weird, oddball things. So at our wine example there, we've talking about a wine that cost us between $10 to $20 to produce is going to run much more, but we're not going to be spending a lot on that economy of scale. We're going to be paying everybody along the way. So let's take a look at some numbers, though. Let us bebop over here to my images section, and we're going to talk about some charts and graphs, because you know what you guys love more than wine? Charts and graphs. So this first chart that I'm looking at here, this is a winery count by, oops, we don't want to go back past that. We got to go back, I say. Charts, go back. There we go, stop. Okay, whoops, no play, pause. Gotta love it when it doesn't listen to me. All right, so winery count by production size. So what this shows us here is that this is the number of wineries, about 10,000 wineries in the US in 2020. And what you're looking at is the size of winery based on case count. So here on the left axis, this is the number of cases in tens of thousands that they make. So large wineries make that's actually the total number. The largest of wineries are here at 500K cases. Okay, so there's actually a very small number, only 72, less than 2% of overall wineries that are in the U.S. make wine at the 500 or basically the 500,000 case count per year. So there's a very few, quote unquote, very large players. Now, obviously, the medium category is an order of magnitude here. We've got 50 to 500, but there's still a pretty significant number. But again, this is in total winery count. If you look down here, limited production run, basically under 1,000 case count, accounts for the bulk of it. This is kind of not surprising that there's a lot more little fish than there are big fish, but it's kind of shocking to me to see the numbers outright of how truly few big wineries there are, especially when we look at our next chart. So this is winery count by average bottle price. Okay, so the number on the left is the number of wineries, and then they're represented as a percentage of the total here on the bars. But the bottom left here, there's only 2% of the wineries, the total wineries, are making wine in the $1 to $10, the $11 range. Basically, that super economy level of wine. That economy level of wine, there's not that many people making it. That may seem counterintuitive, but basically it shows that to be in that game, you have to have that economy of scale in your favor, right? As John points out, vertically integrated businesses as well, where you've got top to bottom, control over your operation. What's next fascinating is the next two groups, basically, 11 to 20 and 20 to 30, account for the bulk of not only the wineries that are making them, but basically the bulk of wine consumed. About 85% of the wines consumed in the United States are $15 or less. Okay, so while there may be a very few wineries making them, and that the vast consumptive angle of this is that the bottom of the pyramid is much bigger than the narrow end top. So very few wineries are making these, $100 plus wines, but the bulk, and even in those small production people who are doing sub 1,000 case wines, they're probably living in this 11 to 30 range more often than not. Okay, so again, it's truly kind of interesting numbers. I think that just kind of gives you the idea that while wine is big business, there are relatively few big players, and there's a lot of little guys out there. Also gives you hope to go, hey, if you just try one winery a day, you've only got how many thousands more to go? Find that encouraging. It can be kind of fun. So, and the answer to Betty's question of average price per bottle from winery to disty or disty to price to consumer. Very good question. Looking at the charts, the wine analytics charts, I'm imagining those are consumer level retail prices. Okay, so you'd have to take our FOB math and all that stuff in the background. Those price examples were, it did not clearly state, but I'm 90% sure that those are retail-based numbers rather than what they're selling at their FOB. So this is the thing where you make a very good point. It could be a very different number if we're talking about, in that sales range where the $1 to $11 range is their out the door cost. But I'm fairly certain we're talking about the actual retail, what you see sticker price. So anyway, so what all does that mean? So here, now we've talked about money. We talked about what goes into it and why a bottle might cost the way it does. Where do the dollars come from? But then it comes the next thing, which I cannot emphasize enough as far as my personal approach to wine, the world that I think the wine world that most of us live in, and that is, where does quality along that line come through? Because it isn't in any one of those major price categories. There is no one thing that says here's where quality lives. Instead, there are quality points in each one of those, little pockets thereof. And I think the thing to remember as a life guide is to drink the best wine that you can reasonably afford. That there are just as many perfectly awesome $20 wines as there are $50 wines, right? Once you start getting down the scale, that becomes harder and harder to find, right? When we get into the true value level wines of inexpensive wines that are produced at big scale but are using less quality original fruit, that's where you start to come into challenge points. But just because a wine is priced expensively doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good. There's a lot of other factors that go into that final price that are not in the growing, producing, distribution, and sale, but they go into demand and the basically kind of ethos of the wine. So when we talk about like the ultra high-end stuff, and I'm talking about Domaine Romani Conti here, stuff that sells for you could buy a very nice luxury car or a bottle of this wine. Okay, so those are not prices driven by what goes into the bottle, but by market demand, right? It's all about very low production, very, very high demand, and a very elite club of people who can afford to and mess around in that pool and arena. But the same kind of market forces still exist at our level, at that medium level, that are driven by just ye average distributor and salesperson, right? When we talk about, for instance, a wine becomes popular and becomes kind of the in thing, you're going to see that retailers can afford to charge more for those wines simply because they're in high demand. You'll also find that when you look at a retailer, especially at the restaurant level, now when we talk about grocery stores and liquor stores, they're generally speaking competing basically on price alone, right? They're competing amongst one another to see which place you're going to shop at to do your purchasing. But when it comes to the restaurant world, right, the wine program tends to hold a very specific place within the restaurant's income and hierarchy. How much it produces is something that helps supports other less margin profitable areas of the restaurant. So there's a lot that goes into decision making when you talk about how much you're going to price that bottle or glass at your establishment. One of the interesting counterintuitive factors is that wines that are priced too cheaply may be perceived as cheap because of that. In other words, if a wine isn't expensive, people won't believe it's good. And that's a strange fallacy of the wine consuming world, is that we tend to be locked into this idea that more expensive equals better, rather than the concept of getting what you pay for. There's a Venn diagram out there somewhere in my brain that I've got to get down on paper that shows you how to judge those things. And the weird part is it only comes with experience, right? I cannot say these producers are always awesome at this price point. I can do that only after having tasted them or experienced them myself. Whereas, once you find a producer that you really like, that's where I highly recommend sticking with them, playing around at every price point that they have, because you'll find a lot of producers produce value-priced wines versus their estate-priced wines, etc. They may have multiple labels, which is also kind of cool. So, anyway, the idea that I want you guys to just be aware of is that you don't want to be don't be trapped in that idea that it's just because it's expensive it's good, or just because it's cheap it's bad. And look for the quality point yourself, and really exercise that muscle of trying new things, finding those new gaps, and being aware that so many other options exist besides just the usuals. I mean, it's very easy to get stuck in the rut, and part of that is that reason from that first chart. There's a lot of the people that we see in the grocery store, is a lot of those wine labels are controlled by very few major brands, and that is an interesting conundrum to face of its own. Is how do I get a hold of whatever level of effort am I willing to make to go out of my way to find wineries that are different and hard, different and making wine in their own cool way. So anyway, that's just kind of a snapshot thereof of the wine world, and a little bit of money talk. We're going to talk a later video about kind of the price bands and what those generally mean as far as what you should be expecting to get for your dollar, right? When we talk about when at the super value price point of under $4, let's say $5 or under, what does that mean, right? What should you expect out of the wine that you're getting there, versus when you get to that 10 to 15 level, 15 to 25 level, 25 to 35, 50 and above. Generally speaking, above $50 in price, you're generally not paying any more for what's in the bottle anymore, like we talked about today. Now you're paying for that hype, that popularity, that those other factors, the marketing and things like that. But what's cool is knowing where that sweet spot is, because personally that 15 to 25 point is where you're going to find a lot of great value out of wine for still getting very high quality, right? And then in fact, even getting up into that $40 and $50 range is great, but once you start graduating past that, you have to be really careful with where you spend your money, because 9 times out of 10 you're not paying. You're paying because of everybody wanting it, not because it's necessarily the coolest thing in the world. Because believe it or not, the entire world's worth of taste doesn't necessarily always point to something that might match with your taste. So anyway, let's see. So let's talk a little bit about the grocery store grab, or actually any other questions about money before I kind of move on and move past that topic. I know I'm a little bit delayed behind, so it's that weird part I've got to get used to, where I can see me talking and then it comes onto the video chat a little bit later to go into your ears, to your keyboard, back to me. The beauties of streaming versus live cast. So. Ooh, man. All right. Well, grocery store grab it is. So today's grocery store grab, for those that do not know, the grocery store grab is our little project to help get the best value per dollar for wines found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. We assume that our buyer is naive to wine in general, and we focus on label, on how labeling can help a wine get to your basket and off the shelf, because they tell you good and useful information on the label. So it's label focus. I do them without prior selection. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm not familiar with the wines or haven't had them. This one in specific, the 2016 Phantom, is something that I have had before. Not this 2016, but I've had this brand. So that is our brand for today. Let's talk a little. Let's go ahead and show it off a little bit here. We'll show off the Phantom, El Fantasma. All right, that's our back. So here's our front of our label. This is a fun. They have a fun little thing that I'm going to talk about here. They have a app that's attached to their wine brand that is a delightful little augmented reality set. So you've got, if you download to your phone and you scan the label, it will come up with things on your phone basically that integrate with the label, and you can find the Phantom. That's very cool. So it's got this spooky dooky fun kind of label. Now remember, front labels are where their job is to make their wine evocative and stand out. I totally like this label. I think it's very elegant. It's got the handwritten in gold reflective paint, and it's got a very spooky story. So, but here's what's important about the back label. So we've got the Phantom proprietary red California. So it is a red blend, is what it's effectively telling us. And it is a non-specific area of California. So we're not getting a specific AVA here. This is a broadly made one. All right. So the back here reading, we call him the Phantom, a ghostly figure that wanders the Bogle cellars at night. Fleeting glimpses of muddy work boots and blue jeans, then gone. Does the Phantom really exist? Yes. Has he inspired us? Absolutely. Now, all marketing schlock there, but here comes the meat. Wild berries and black pepper are framed by the influence of oak with baking spices and a hint of toasty vanilla. That's our flavor sentence that we're looking for, right? We're looking to see here about what exactly we should be expecting. The answer is wild berries, black pepper, a little bit of oak, baking spice, toasty vanilla. By the way, the toasty vanilla is part of the oak, but we won't tell their writer that. You'll also see that there's instructions there for downloading the wine and scanning it, which I did right before the show. It's a pretty cool little thing. In fact, here I should play you guys. Let me see if I can play you guys the audio from our little augmented wine thing here. It had a fun. Where's the back label? I will scan it once more. This is this. Here it is. Scanning label. Can you see the label? There it is. And I'll let you listen to the audio.
A veil of swirling mystery. A curious, shadowy sight. Tales of old passed down through generations bear a striking similarity to the ever-growing testaments brought into the light by a fortunate few. If only for fleeting glimpses and undeniable sense that among these vines and cellars, a phantom lurks in our midst.
Ooh, spooky dooky. I love it. So very cool. So yeah, they also, I have to applaud them for using their augmented reality in a good way. Not only is the first piece of it is just a fun piece of fluff. It's for marketing, and that's awesome. I mean, their little cool little video there is evocative, right? They're getting you into their brand space, which I love. But in other cool things, there are links to the tech sheets and data about the wine available as well. So, utilizing our little pocket computer, we can do all kinds of cool shit. And they are leveraging that within themselves. So, bravo. I would like at least one less step of cool if there was simply a QR code or something to scan on there just to get straight to a tech sheet. That'd be better in my mind. But I'm not going to, mock them for their fun, awesome, integrated thing. So, anyway, that is what the wine says. As far as the wine labeling on our WineShark scale, what we want to know is what's in the bottle. They're not telling us. They're telling us it's a proprietary red blend, and I'm not pretty much a fan of that, so that's not so good. So the variety, and if it's blended, what percentage is something I am interested in. The reason that I'm interested in, and I want you guys to be too, is if you like a particular wine, I want you to know what's in it so that you can try more things like that. By looking up the text sheet on this, by doing the extra effort, this is actually a Petit Syrah Zinfandel blend. Ta-da! It's Petit Syrah and Zinfandel. If you like those two things and you want to explore more, now you know. Where are the grapes grown? In this case, because it is not a specific AVA, they are simply telling us it is California. That is perfectly fine practice depending on the quality of the stuff. Last but not least is the does it have flavor words? Right, we talked about the back label having our flavor words. We got wild dark berries, we got baking spices, things like that. That's what we're supposed to expect. So on that note, at least it did good. The final thing that I really like to see is food pairings, specifically specific food pairings, but unfortunately, that's becoming less and less popular. So I think my expectation for that is something that's just a pipe dream of mine. It's always a way to get a plus in my book, but it's not very common, so I don't expect it. Overall, I'd give this a solid BB plus, and their augmented reality usage actually gives them, I would put them at an easily double plus. So Anyway, so Shannon says that she's kidding me. They had no idea there's all this fun, cool stuff. The download of the app. This is all brand new, though, Shannon. I don't think that they've had this in previous years. So don't beat yourself up too much about that. I happened to see it on the back of the label when I got it home. I did not know when I made the choice, but I made the choice to buy the wine because it's a great spooky theme. It's for a Halloween grab, so there you go. Now, let's get to the brassiest of tacks. Let's find out how this bad boy tastes. Let's find out its performance and whether it's worth it. So we ask 3 things of our tasting notes. Is it well executed? Is it on style? And is it worth the price tag? I.e., would I buy it again? So far as color is concerned, this thing does have an inky dark coloration to it. It is all about the big dark fruits. That, by the way, even if I did not know the previous example that it is a Petite Syrah / Zinfandel, I would not be surprised to find those, because those dark purple colors are very indicative of Petite Syrah, Petit Verdot, and such. On the nose, it definitely hits its baking spice category. I really like what I'm smelling as far as that nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice kind of line. It's got a very heady, rich, and syrupy type smell, so it definitely bespeaks of a soft palate slash, rather than fresh fruits. So it doesn't smell to me, for instance, like fresh picked blackberries. It smells more like blackberry jam or blackberry cobbler, which is awesome. Again, that also speaks to it being a little malolactic fermented, which should give us a nice smooth mouthfeel as well. So oh yeah, it's a big boy. It is blackberry and black currant all throughout the mouth. There is a nice plush tannin structure. Its malolactic fermentation brings a little bit of butteriness to its back of its palate, which again, all of these things conjure into your mind is that it's that blackberry cobbler, blackberry pie thing. We've got that flaky pie crust with butter that's layered in there. You've got that delightfully rich, thick, fruit flavor, and then that little hint of spices that you'd be using in a baking dish. It clings to your tongue. It lingers a bit. Very well structured. Very well tannin point. The Phantom was $25 at list price prior to the grocery store discount, meaning the buy it with your card at my Tom Thumb. So the final price was $17. At $17. It is certainly well executed. It is very nice to drink. This is a big plush wine, right? For those that you like rich, intense wine flavors, right up your alleyway. Is it on style? Difficult to say, because we're talking about proprietary blending or red blends in general. That can mean a lot of different things. So I don't think this one should have a style. So that's kind of an NA for this wine. Is it worth the price tag? Oh, very much. I think that at $17, this is a very well-positioned wine. I would certainly like having this around, and it is a year-round and especially fun fall drink. This is perfect for your warm nights by the fire and a cold evening kind of thing. Enjoy with a good book and a friend. When it comes to food stuff, boy, this is going to take some big food to get to go down with it, right? You're going to need to have something with some oomph to it, as it is pretty rich and mouth dominant all of its own. But is it worth the price tag? Oh yeah, very, very much so. So well done, Bogle, once again killing it with the Phantom, and their augmented reality program gives them a spooky plus for the day. So if you guys go out and go try a bottle of your own, it is well worth it. And Shannon's dying to get a hold of one of hers this year. So yeah, so check it out, the 2016. They also make a Chardonnay, which I need to go seek out, see what they do for that. But Clarksburg, California, good peeps, highly enjoyable and very, very fun. So anyway, okay, so there's our grocery store grab. Any other questions that we have from the gallery of peanuts? You guys have some things are pinging on my phone. I was trying to decide whether the Phantom was trying to tell me more information on the augmented reality. The answer is no. It had shut down appropriately. But there's lots of cool stuff on their little on their web app there. So I think you guys should make time to play around with it. Yeah, good stuff. No, definitely not going to waste for this particular bottle. I think I just shall have some more. Julia Child's kind of fashion. Oh, and now there you go. Very cool little thing for their cork note here. It's basically how to pronounce their name and what their name heritage comes from. So a Bogle, of Scottish origin, a friendly spirit, a phantom. That is written on the inside of their corks. So they spent some good money on their corks as well for their overall packaging and program. Very very slick, very well done. That is another thing, is they have a good example. So nostalgic reasons. I've tried the Essential Red, favorite everyday wine. I have not tried the Essential Red. I will have to go seek that out. I do like Bogle. I've had their wines several times in the past. They are certainly a good, widely found name, right? They're a good grocery store / liquor store level name. I certainly wouldn't ever turn away from them. So I've had pretty good experiences. I will definitely check out their Essential Red. I wonder what blend they've got of those, to be specific. So John Gary said, off topic, he's catching up on Friday's tasting and the Le Fauvent with Alpenseller Gruyere. Oh, excellent. So you had that Syrah that we had on Friday is a really fun wine. For those that did not get to come to Friday's show, I'm gonna look up. Hang on, let me look up my notes here real quick, because we need to know. We should be. I shouldn't have this memorized yet, but it's just been 1 week, so I will give myself a credit for this. But a particular tasting word that we learned regarding Provençal red wines, and that is, it's called garrigue, Garrigue, garrigue. And garrigue is the low-growing plant coverage / ecoregion that's found across Mediterranean forests, woodlands, and scrublands, and the scrub biomes. And so it's this mix. It's the stuff that's not quite on the ground, but not quite in the bushes and the trees, right? And it's this mix of juniper and thyme and rosemary and lavender aromas. And the wine that we had in this Syrah was just dead on. You could smell this wine and smell this savory lavender rosemary thing going on, and then it was this beautiful big Syrah that followed it up. It was very, very good wine. I was quite impressed with it, I must say. Although I may have done myself a bad thing. I think I might have left the bottle out at my mother's for the wine tasting I had on Saturday, which means I don't have a photo of it for my Vivino, which means, oh no, I might have to buy another bottle. Oh man, I suffer for my art, I swear. It's tough. It's tough business. Cork notes. Cork notes, Rob. What are cork notes on the notes on the cork? I mean, that was kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of curious. Shannon says she has one bottle of Phantom. It may be my Halloween night wine. Well, see, you've got that, and don't forget, you've got Harvest. You've got our Harvest special the night before Halloween, which is going to get you right up the alleyway for your celebration on the 31st. I promise. So, yeah, but Halloween night wine. I mean, you'll see some very. I think they're meant serious, but I really think they must be tongue in cheek. But I've seen some candy pairings at my Total Wine and Total Wine Total Wine and my online shop. So unfortunately, I really don't concur with many of their choices. There aren't very many wines that really actually do pair well with the Snickers bar, believe it or not. Milk chocolate is really tough to pair with, and the big bold reds that they suggest is wrong. Remember a very interesting conversation that happened once with a young lady on a drive back from San Antonio, where I was discussing the virtues and or merits of red wine. Why does a Pinot Noir not match her peanut butter cup? And anyway, long story short, that was an interesting beginning to a relationship. So Rob said, yeah, then the bottle left at mom's. Yeah, see, I'm telling you, Rob, I'm just gonna have to buy another one. It's tough business I'm in. So John Gary said, a couple years ago, did a dark chocolate and wine tasting that was fantastic. Absolutely. Now the key there, the chocolate rule, is that your chocolate has to be the sweeter of the two, or your wine has to be sweeter than your chocolate, and not the other way around. Okay, so milk chocolates, because they're high in sugar content, tend to be too sweet for your wines, whereas very dark chocolates, anything say north of 75% cacao and in that range, are going to have good results, especially because they help balance out the tannins in the red wines and things like that. So you just want to keep, that's a case where things like port or a nice jammy Phantom like this, a nice Petit Syrah Zinfandel, actually makes a pretty reasonable partner. But again, everybody's different. Some people go ass wild over it. Most people just like to say the word dark chocolate and have little tiny orgasms. Whatever, it's their thing. So don't ruin a girl's fun just because they don't want to believe you when they say don't put that Snickers in your mouth. You don't know where it's been. So anyway. All right, well, so let's see. We'll talk about what's upcoming. Let me open up my calendar of fun and cool events. I just posted today, and it will go up on Facebook probably when this show is done. I try not to step on my own marketing there by announcing two things back to back. But the Wines of Fall is this Friday. Then we've got Wine Plus, the Harvest Special on the 30th. For awesome food and plus with a special bonus wine, an optional bonus wine. I will give you guys a hint. Two of the recipes that we served that we'll be serving on that show, I have tried now. Actually, I tried them before with the apple sausage stuffing bites, but I made the secret recipe, the dessert recipe, which is a white mousse pumpkin pie, and it is down. Oh my God, it's so good. It is my new favorite pumpkin. And it's a no-bake pie, which is really kind of cool. So anyway, so that's Harvest Special on the 30th. Then we've got Wine and Cheese Part 6 on 6th November. So we're gonna talk about cheese boards and entertaining with cheese and how to treat your cheese for your guests, present, make it look beautiful, that kind of thing. That's gonna be our focus. Then we have Holiday Wine Selection is the 13th. That one just went on sale today, and I'll put a link up to it. They're focusing on entertaining for holidays and basically how to pick a few wines that will be multi-happy family across lots of guests, right? So you're not having to stock a huge, deep wine bar. What are the best multi-tools for the task in that? Then that's on November 13th. Then the week after that, which will be the 20th, it's Bacchus Comes to Thanksgiving, and that'll be our feature-focused show on wine with Thanksgiving dinner, turkey specifically, and all the cool stuff there. So we'll have a couple of fun selections for you to try out. Specifically, of course, that'll be the week that the Beaujolais Nouveau comes out. So in the link, it'll say buy yourself a Nouveau, and I won't have a specific one ready because I won't have a link to it until, probably right beforehand. Fresh ground peanut butter with red wine. Okay. Fresh ground peanut butter, too. I like that Rob's got a very specific thing there, right? That nice, earthy peanut flavor. So, and then John, of course, John's a huge port fan, so that's almost a given for him. Chocolate and port, total gimme, man. I'm telling you. Especially LBV ports, right? That is the easiest win you could ever have. So, anyway, so those are some of our up-and-coming shows. I hope you guys can join us. I'd also like to announce to you guys that we have a live show coming up at Reunion Tower. We've got Wine 43 Stories Up, with the best view of Killer downtown with yours truly hosting the wine tasting. So we're going to be doing that on the 14th of November. Ticket information TBD. I'm waiting on our event planner to get back to me with the actual ticket stuff. So we will have that upcoming in very soon. So that will be a show focusing on entertaining with wine. It'll be similar in content to what you'll see on my show on the 13th. The day before, we're going to do an online thing, and then we're going to do a bigger version. We'll probably have 5 wines that night, 5 or 6 different wines to try out, and we'll be featuring all across the whole idea, from bubbly and sparkling stuff to serve at New Year's to holiday pleasers all the way around. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys will join me up at Reunion Tower. It is a fun, safe environment as well. Basically, that you will only be dining with people that are on your own personal ticket list, and then we'll do social distancing between tables, so you can have just your safe and happy party of 3, 4, 5 people at your own table. It'll be awesome. So it'll be a lot of fun, and I am very much looking forward to that. So anyway, all right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed yourselves today. I hope you're all getting yourselves a nice, relaxing glass of wine. I'm liking the fact that the sun's getting to go down here, getting our nice earlier evenings going in. Nice, cozy, nesty feelings, which I definitely say we can't get quite enough of. But if you guys have got topics that you guys want to see come up on WineShark Wednesdays, I am, of course, open to suggestions. I'm always looking for various topics that come through, both just that it's questions that I get from guests and from students, whether things that are wine industry topics, etc. But if you've got something that you want me to cover up on one of these shows, please feel free to ask. If I haven't recorded one already, I'll be glad to figure one out for you. So that'd be a lot of fun. Shannon says she bought her VacuVin. They have yet to have a bottle of wine that was not polished off. But yes, you are now well prepared. Again, it's the better. It's just like your fire extinguisher, Shannon. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. See? Now, when you have an evening when you come to one of our wine tastings where you have 3 bottles open, you will find a perfect need for it then, because unlikely to finish all 3. That's a pretty Olympian level event, I must say myself. So. All right, guys. Well, I am very, very happy to have seen you all. I wish you guys very, very well in an excellent wine drinking world. If you guys want to comment on the videos, that would be very helpful to me and the channel. So make those comments down there, get some things going, get a conversation started. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel and share with a wine-loving friend. If you really like what we're doing, check us out over on Patreon. There's additional content over there. All of the shows that we do on Friday nights are recorded for posterity, and they are in library form, so you can go back and watch and learn lessons about wine and cheese and food and all the things I kept talking about, individual topics and such. So that's a lot of fun. And we're going to be featuring some more. I'm working up a series of recipe/food pairing information, trying to change up and add some new things to Patreon, because I want to get different types of content available for our supporters over there. As usual, you guys are awesome for your generosity, and I really appreciate what you guys do for me. So definitely want to check that out. And then, last but not least, we will see you guys this Friday for the Wines of Fall. But until next time and next week, we'll talk some more on WineShark Wednesday. Until then, I have been your host, WineShark. Cheers. And this is the part where we have to wait a bit for the stream to actually shut off. But that's cool. I'm going to wait for a minute, push the button, and hope. Sooner or later, I'm sure it will actually end. But you'll still be here, and I will have missed you.